All right, good evening, AP Government friends. I wanted to do a combined lecture of chapters 6, 7, and 10, just do a quick review in preparation for your Unit 3 test that's upcoming. And so just a couple of highlights that I really want to draw your attention to. So when the media or politicians refer to the American people, they often are referring to public opinion, which is essentially the distribution of the population's beliefs about politics and policy issues. So what the American people think, basically what do they want, what do they feel, etc. Other things that you might want to take note of, minority majority right here. This is the I guess theory that eventually, and this theory is based off of the results of censuses, where we actually count people every 10 years. And this is the theory that America will eventually cease to have a non-Hispanic white majority, and instead all the minority groups added together will outnumber white Americans. Understand, again, reapportionment is one of the byproducts of the census, and this is when the 435 seats in the House of Representatives are reallocated to reflect each state's proportion of the population. So, for example, if the census reveals that a state has 5% of the population, then that state will receive 5% of the seats in the House. Something else to keep in mind is what's known as the graying of America, and this is the fact that the demographic group of 65 years and older is the fastest growing group in the United States. A couple different reasons for that. One is a lot of those people were baby boomers, or essentially born right before, during, or particularly after World War II, and just people were having more babies. And because of advances in medicine and healthier living, life expectancy has increased, and so we are seeing more people who are 65 years and older than any other single age group, if you will. So political socialization. This is basically how Americans learn about politics. Keep in mind for your test that the family and then teachers often are the two most, I guess, influential agents of political socialization. Okay. Also know that as people become more socialized with age, their political orientations grow stronger. Also, the government often aims socialization efforts primarily at younger generations and populations. And Americans, again, maintain most of their socialization from their families and teachers. Okay, so just some things to keep in mind there. Also, as people grow older, they are more likely to be politically active, and they also develop a stronger attachment to their political party. So just a couple things to keep in mind. Going back to public opinion, how does the media and how do politicians gather this information? I had told you guys a story in the lecture about Mr. George Gallup, who conducted what would become the first Gallup poll. Just know that it would be really inexpensive. It would be very expensive to try to poll and survey every single American about every single issue. And so instead, you want to look for a sample, keyword here, and you want your sample to reflect the actual population. So random sampling is the best way to do that in order to, it's really the key to the accuracy of opinion polls. And this is because a random sample should reflect the actual population. For example, if you survey 2,000 people, 50% of those people surveyed should be women because 50% of our total population are women. And the same thing, example here, if you survey 2,000 people, 13% of those people should be African American because 13% of our population is African American. Always keep in mind that public opinion polls are only estimates because all surveys have a sampling error. You obviously want your sampling error to be smaller than larger, but just keep in mind, in case it appears on your test, that all surveys have a sampling error. Okay. I don't think any of this is on your test, but random digital dialing, those are the fun phone calls that you get at your house or possibly on your cell phone. Okay, exit polls. I know this is on your test. Exit polls occur at voting places, and every 10th person is asked how he or she votes, and then the media kind of spins the wording, which can ultimately affect results. And yeah, that's definitely going to be on your test. Okay, Political ideology, this is the coherent set of values and beliefs about public policy. And the two most common labels that are put out there to kind of sum up or categorize a person's beliefs is either liberal or conservative. Some things to keep in mind in terms of differences between liberals and conservatives. Liberals tend to favor less military spending, whereas conservatives tend to favor more spending for the military. And liberals tend to seek to tax the rich, whereas conservatives seek to maintain the free market and tax the rich less. Liberals generally believe that we can solve the problems that cause crime, and conservatives believe that we should stop coddling criminals. Liberals tend to support affirmative action, and conservatives tend to oppose it. So if you were to be asked any particular question about differences between liberals and conservatives, hopefully you are listening to this. Okay. Gender gap. This is the belief that, or not a belief, it's a pattern that has clearly been shown and demonstrated in which women are more likely to support Democratic candidates than men. So again, women are more likely than men to support Democratic candidates. Here is significant evidence. Whoa, John M. That probably should say McCain. Sorry. Political participation. Let's talk about this, shall we? This political participation is a very, very broad, has a very broad scope. It encompasses many different activities in which citizens engage to influence the selection of political leaders or the policies they pursue. Great. What does that mean for you? Just some things to keep in mind. Rates of political participation are unequal among Americans, and this is by lines of race, education, socioeconomic background, just the number of people from the different groups. It's not equal in terms of their political participation. Also, citizens of higher socioeconomic status participate more in politics than citizens of lower socioeconomic status. Among blacks and whites of equal levels of education, blacks participate in politics more than whites do. Sorry, there's a typo. Among people without a high school diploma, blacks are more likely to vote than are whites. Okay, so just some interesting patterns and things to keep in mind. Let's see. Anything else about political participation? I think we are good. Okay. So besides voting, what are other ways that people can participate? Definitely keep in mind civil disobedience, and this is a form of protest where people knowingly and consciously break a law because they feel that it was unjust. And often Martin Luther King Jr. is kind of the poster child for this because all of his arrests were the result of civil disobedience on principle. And we will stop there with Chapter 6. Okay, Chapter 7 deals with the mass media. What is media? Just know examples. They might appear on the test, including TV, radio, magazines, newspapers, internet, and websites, and be able to, if asked, identify the difference between print versus digital or electronic media. I hope you can do that without much help from me. Other things that will appear on your test is that increasing public attention to specific problems is one of the main functions of the media, and it's right here, and that's known as agenda setting. So certain problems that people are focusing on, the media will highlight, thus pressuring lawmakers to address those issues. Oh, here was print, electronic, and internet that I had mentioned. Okay, just in case you're asked about those, you probably will be, hint, hint. Okay, government regulation of the media. Things to keep in mind is that the FCC was created in 1934, Federal Communications Commission, and the main job is to regulate the use of the airways. Equal time rule, which is right down here, you need to know that. And the equal time rule basically is the idea that if a station sells advertising time to one candidate, it must be willing to sell equal time to other candidates for the same office, so give both sides a chance. Okay, let's see what else. Sound bites. I know sound bites are on your test. What is one of the following? What are some consequences of sound bites? And they include politicians find it harder to get their message across to the public because it's taking a big talking piece or amount of talking and then shrinking it down to like little tiny snippets. And so politicians won't be able to get their message across. Channels such as CNN and MSNBC, rather than the major networks, increasingly cover the field of political news. Politicians are better able to avoid the issues. So just like they can't get their main message across, they also sort of have an out because they can't talk for as long. And some politicians have turned to new outlets, such as entertainment and talk show, to try to communicate with the public to get their message across. Okay, other things. Okay, I don't think on the test there's actually a lot about government officials in the White House. But just understand that citizens can sometimes alter their evaluation of political leaders in response to media coverage, and that's, again, one of the main effects of the media. That was a short PowerPoint. So, again, I mentioned, where's functions? Functions. Okay, agenda setting, kind of shapes public opinion. Just some things about print media. A major metropolitan newspaper averages 100,000 words compared to a typical nightly news broadcast, which amounts to about 3,600 words. So that's kind of telling. Here, I'll make this bigger for you. In 2008, one newspaper was sold for every 5 adults. Those who read the news tend to be more engaged than those who watch the news. So, lesson for kids, you better read. And American newspapers collect little advertising revenue from online editions. Okay, so there's just some stuff about print media that you should probably focus on. Also, other countries where they have democracies also have media, but the American media is different from the media in those ones because our media, are totally dependent on advertising revenue to keep the business going. And so this is not a government-owned entity that no matter how many subscribers, users, members it has, will keep going. The media is definitely driven by advertising, for better or worse. And that's why we all get inundated with those negative ads. Let's see. Investigative journalism. Look at that. That's often in-depth reporting to unearth scandals, scams, and schemes. And oftentimes, investigative journalism can pit reporters versus political leaders because the investigators are unearthing, to use that verb, things that political leaders probably don't want people to know. Okay? So that was short and sweet. The media stuff is pretty short and to the point, and I think you will be good to go.